Objectives. This video is designed to teach you how to draw a constructed axonometric drawing to feature an interior space. At the end, you will be able to take a plan and use height measurements to create a three-dimensional view. This is a necessary skill in order to better feature details of a space. For example, to help understand what a space would look like to scale. Materials. You will need a plan, painter's tape, trace paper, T-square, 30-60 triangle, scale ruler, and drafting pencil. Before we begin, it is worth noting that axonometric drawings are essentially pictures of three-dimensional objects like the interior of a tiny house viewed at an angle. The horizontal lines that define the length and width of a room are represented by lines that have been rotated either 30, 45, or 60 degrees from the horizon line. Because of this, you can either use a 45 or a 30-60 triangle. Working with a plan, the first step is to determine what view and angle you want to feature. What part of the plan do you want to see? For example, the bedroom, living room, or part of the kitchen. Once you've decided on the area you want to feature, think about standing in a stationary point and what elements you would see. What is the best angle to show that? With the bottom corner of your area as an axis and using a triangle, rotate your plan either 60 degrees, 45 degrees, or 30 degrees. This video will feature the 30-60 triangle since I'm choosing to rotate my plan 30 degrees to show off a portion of the kitchen. As a check, make sure the other wall on the plan is aligned with the corresponding angle of your triangle. For example, if you pick 30 degrees like I am, the other side should be rotated 60 degrees and vice versa. It's important to make sure it is properly aligned because when you draw the lines that represent length and width, it should directly correspond to their respective angles. Once situated, tape down your plan. To tape down the trace paper, just know that the portion of the plan being drawn should be completely covered and at the bottom of the trace paper. There should also be enough trace paper above the plan to extrude the height vertically, since we are essentially lifting the flat surfaces in the plan up to scale. Finally, the trace paper should be parallel to your drafting board. Project points from the plan straight up using light construction lines. Starting with the interior back wall, use the 90-degree portion of your triangle to draw light vertical lines. It's okay to have excess. Using a scale ruler and the appropriate measurements for height, mark how tall each point would be. Then, use your triangle to connect the points using light construction lines. Each point should align with the slope of the triangle against the T-square. If not, it means at least one of your scaled height measurements was not accurate. Eventually, you'll feel comfortable enough with the process that you won't mark the height for every point and instead use the triangle to find the height of the corresponding points. You will see this throughout the video. Repeat this process for the rest of your details such as doors, windows, and furniture. Don't forget to show the depth of an object. Because of depth, some lines and objects may overlap. This means that not all lines drawn will be visible. For example, I'm not going to project the backmost corner of the washer and dryer up since the line won't be visible. Instead, I will use the triangle to help me determine where the back corner of the dryer will be. Because it's easy to get lost in the number of lines that are happening, I find it helpful to work systematically. The best thing is to find what works for you, but here are some ideas to start with. One idea is to move from objects that are in the front towards objects in the back in order to understand which lines will end up being visible versus construction. Because part of the dryer will be blocking the sink, I will be drawing from left to right. In addition to this process, here are some tips that I think you might find to be helpful. The first goes back to the fact that an axonometric drawing adds height to a plan. That means that after you've drawn the vertical lines and extruded the points to the appropriate scale height, you should be able to move your plan up to that point and have all the elements with the same height aligned to the plan. So in this example, if you move the plan up, the top of all the walls should match your plan. If you readjust the plan down to a different height, all of the counters should align, and so on. This means you can literally trace the sink and faucet from the plan onto the trace paper. Another tip specific to keeping track of lines is simply seeing what has and has not been drawn on trace paper. Simply slide in a blank, preferably white, sheet of paper between your plan and trace paper. I find this to be especially helpful to see what, if any, lines are missing and still need to be drawn. Once you have your axonometric drawing set up, darken your visible lines by adding line weights. The minimum is usually 3 to 5. In this case, the lines closest to the top or the wall would be the heaviest. Lines closest to the outline edges would be the next thickest, while details would be the final line weight and it would be the lightest. You can also add materials such as the symbol for glass on windows and doors, and shading is needed. You have now reached the end of this tutorial, which means you should be able to draw a constructed axonometric drawing given a plan and using height measurements. I'd encourage you to go back and pause to practice any parts you are not yet comfortable with. With these skills, you can now represent a three-dimensional space to feature its details to scale.